What's up, everybody, man? Back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Kong news roundup. In this video, we will be continuing our chronological journey through the development and release of Godzilla Kong: The New Empire and its subsequent sequel by talking about events that happened in March of 2024. Let's get into it. First of all, before I begin the actual news roundup, I've seen a lot of confusion and misconceptions on my last news roundup. I mentioned that I felt like if Adam Wingard got to continue with the MonsterVerse, which as we all know, he unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you see it, he is not going to get to. I said that I felt like if he did a monster he would be interested in is Spacegodzilla. I wasn't saying if he did Spacegodzilla as the monster he was going to use, nor was I saying Spacegodzilla is going to be in the upcoming MonsterVerse film. That just wasn't what I was saying. I threw it out as an option with other options involved, and that's just the one you guys latched onto, clearly showing that you guys want Spacegodzilla and that there's a demand there. But let me just say really quickly, I don't think we're going to get Spacegodzilla in the next MonsterVerse movie. I don't think Spacegodzilla is going to join the MonsterVerse. It's kind of an obscure monster. Us fans know about it, but Spacegodzilla is not terribly well known. It's also one of the most ridiculous monsters Toho ever used, and it didn't even work out in the movie Godzilla vs. Spacegodzilla. It didn't do what they expected it to do. Spacegodzilla wasn't the hit they wanted, and people have been making fun of Spacegodzilla ever since he was first introduced in 1994. I just don't think there's a way forward with Spacegodzilla, although let me pitch you one really fast. I think Spacegodzilla could be awesome if they wind up making Spacegodzilla a genetic abomination by fusing Godzilla's DNA with Shimo's DNA, therefore there's the crystals, and with Ghidorah's DNA, and that's where the space element comes from. That's how you do Spacegodzilla in the MonsterVerse, for those of you wondering. That'd be pretty awesome, and that's not gonna happen. I don't think Spacegodzilla is coming to the MonsterVerse, so I apologize for getting people's hopes up. That was not the point. I was just saying that's a monster I feel like is right up Adam Wingard's alley, and that's one that I could see him doing. That was not me saying that's the one that he was gonna do, and that's the one we're getting. So my apologies for that. Jumping into the news, I want to start out with some art like always, and this first piece comes to us from Takosu. This is their evolved Goji. I think it's very cute, great chibi art style, almost hitting the Godzilla dance pose. I think it is so cute, so I wanted to show it off. I was a really big fan of it. This next piece comes to us from Owen Kellen. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. Is Owen an actual MonsterVerse concept artist? Because so much of the art from that movie, whether it be the Mutos or Godzilla himself, looks like this art style. I'm not entirely sure, but what I am sure of is that this is wonderful artwork. I love it. I love this look at Mechagodzilla. It is fantastic. This is a better visual, in my opinion, of Mechagodzilla than maybe we get in the movie. It conveys this real sense of horror and scale with him. I love him breaking through the Golden Gate Bridge Godzilla style. I love the people down there as a point of reference, the choppers flying around. It's just great. So I wanted to show that off. I think it's fantastic. Our final art piece for the video comes from Mechanicong's second biggest fan following my father. This is Tomocharo's Mechagodzilla and Mechanicong sprint parodying the Godzilla vs. Kong sprint. I love it. It is so goofy. They should not be moving like that. I cannot believe Mechanicong could get up the speed to be able to move at that level, but it is so silly. I love the Hollow Earth inspired background as well. I wanted to show it off because I thought it was a lot of fun. All right, let me blast through some stuff here. We got some merchandise for you. A Godzilla Kong Rubik's Cube was released. Pretty neat. Waxwork released the Godzilla X Kong album. Now this is fantastic. I love the albums here. They look so psychedelic and awesome. That feels very Adam Wingard. I also love this art of Godzilla and Kong there together. That's a sheet, I believe, on the inside. I think it looks fantastic. This is so cool. I love the handprints in the center of the discs as well. I love when you open up the book, it's got Shimo and Scar King. That is wonderful Scar King art. Oh, and I love that Scar King's got his apes behind him as well. That is super cool. Sneaky little Monarch logo hidden in there as well. And I love the back of it too, looking very cool. It's got the whole track list, the entire album. Thoughts on the album aside, I love Waxworks' work. I love that they're releasing this. This is fantastic. Toho also shouted it out. It is a 2 LP vinyl set, and so I wanted to shout that out because I think it's very cool, and I'm very glad Waxwork does this. They do wonderful work. Godzilla X Kong's Walmart exclusive steelbook was revealed. This is pretty cool. I like the artwork on the front. It's cool enough. I really like this image of Suko on the back, and then you can see they've got Godzilla and Kong on the discs, and that's the 4K Steelbook set. Pretty neat. As far as figures go for today, Hiya revealed their Shimo for $60. It's incredible. I think $60 is a fantastic price for such a well-sculpted, well-articulated figure. This thing just looks incredible in my opinion. I really like the way they've done the crystals. Shimo's looking fantastic. For a figure this large and articulated and everything like that, it's just truly blows my mind that Hiya can release this thing for the price point they did. So I'm very excited about it. I understand it hasn't released yet because they're making some tweaks to it still, but very cool overall. Godzilla X Kong promoted the movie with some inflatables which ran around in China. Very cute. I like that they're out there taking pictures with fans. I like that they've got the new designs with Godzilla Evolved and Kong with the Beast Glove. It's just very fun. They appeared at baseball games and more to promote the movie. In Japan, Kaiju Lemon collaborated with GXK in Hiroshima with a wonderful little Godzilla Kong display. I love the banner. I love that they brought back out that 2019 Godzilla statue. I think that 2019 Godzilla statue is just a work of beauty, so I always love to see that thing out there in the wild. And of course, it is a farewell to that design in this movie, so that's pretty cool. And then they got some figures on display as well. Very neat. As Godzilla Kong: The New Empire opened in theaters, one thing that is not discussed in the box office was that the theater exclusive merchandise sold incredibly well. There was so much theater exclusive merchandise out there. Pretty much every single theater you went to had new exclusive merchandise, and this wasn't just in America, this extended to other countries as well. So that is going to be a huge point of profit for this movie that is not discussed in the following box office discussion, as well as the merchandise sales like toys and clothes and apparel at home. Just a really cool way of having secondary income for this franchise. Very awesome. But about that, Godzilla X Kong did release to the box office and the results were pretty awesome. With a budget around $135 million, the movie opened with $10 million at the Thursday night alone domestic sales. Pretty awesome. The movie then opened incredibly large as the international release happened. As far as the estimates go, the movie was estimated to open around $135 million global, with $50 million coming from the domestic sales. This was all based on pre-sales. Now the movie actually did even better than that. You know how I hate when people put a negative spin on Godzilla King of the Monsters box office? Well, I could do the same to New Empire really fast. Let me just show you how easy it would be. First of all, the box office in 2024 was doing very bad. People were not going to the movies, and luckily this was just the movie that people decided to go to. So because the rest of the films were doing so poorly and people were not going to theaters, one of them was going to rise above the rest, and this just happened to be the one. Also, I could point out how experts and analysts theorize that Godzilla vs. Kong would have made between $600 million and $1 billion at the global box office had it come out in a non-pandemic world. Now it came out when it did, and so GXK did better than it. Obviously, we're not in the global pandemic and this didn't come out day and date, but it is important to note that there is a theoretical diminishing return between Godzilla vs. Kong and New Empire. So keep that in mind when they continue to do more team-up movies moving forward. Now, I don't actually want to be negative. I just did think that was kind of interesting that this movie technically had a diminishing return from Godzilla vs. Kong, so I figured I'd mention that. But let's get into the celebration because there's a lot to celebrate about. Like I said, in 2024, the box office needed support very badly, and Godzilla Kong: The New Empire got to be the movie that did it. Just like with Godzilla vs. Kong blowing up theaters after the pandemic, this movie resurrected theaters in 2024, at least for a moment. Ever since 2020, it has been like the worst year in box office history every single year. Aside from 2020 and 2021, those years are like permanent pandemic years. Those are capped off in their own bubble. Following that, we've been in a box office rut and we are still in a box office rut. So this movie was like a golden savior of Hollywood, and it's awesome that Godzilla and Kong got to do that twice in a row. This was also a fantastic 1-2 punch as -1 won the Oscar immediately before this opening, so that was pretty cool. And then the movie actually opened way bigger than its estimates. So the movie opened with $80 million domestic, way bigger than expected. Like I said, $50 million versus $80 million, pushing the box office for the MonsterVerse over $2 billion, making the MonsterVerse a $2 billion box office performing franchise and making it one of both Legendary and Warner Bros. Biggest franchises to date. It was also the second biggest opening at the box office of the year behind Dune 2. This was also the second biggest opening of the MonsterVerse since Godzilla 2014 opened at $93.1 million. Now, the reason that movie did so well as opposed to all the others is because it was the first Godzilla movie in 10 years and there was an enormous amount of hype around it that you cannot capture again unless you put Godzilla on another 10-year hiatus. Its international box office pushed the movie to $194 million global. Fantastic opening weekend. This gave it the 5th best Easter weekend ever of all time. Fantastic hold there as well. The movie had an enormous opening weekend in China, surprisingly, as one of the only Hollywood pictures they have let in and embraced in years. Hollywood pictures don't really open in China anymore, so it was wonderful to see Godzilla X Kong do so. Murray Parent, one of the producers of Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, praised Wingard's childlike imaginations. saying that he knows how to deliver the monsters in a way that makes us feel like kids again. She also says he is a very childlike person as well. The movie did incredibly well with demographics that were not white. It was pretty cool. The movie did specifically well with Hispanic and Latino moviegoers. It also did well with moviegoers who don't normally frequent theaters. So like I said, it got to be that movie that brought people into the theaters. It was super cool that it got to do that. It did especially well for people under 35 and even better for demographics under 25. So keep that in mind whenever you get mad at me for mentioning that GXK might be the greatest children's movie ever made, because it kind of is. They've said it over and over again. The primary demographic for this movie was young. I don't know why that's a bad thing. Stop acting like I'm crazy. The movie also scored very well, getting an A cinema score. Very good. It was one of the highest rated Godzilla films at cinema scores. 96% of filmgoers reported that this movie met or exceeded their expectations, and 72% wanted a sequel. So like I said, potential diminishing returns with Godzilla and Kong teaming up in the future, but that's to be expected when you have them team up in every single movie. It's no longer an event, it becomes the norm. And with all that, DC Studios' new head, James Gunn, celebrated this by tweeting out the Godzilla vs. Kong Justice League crossover, hopefully hinting at an animated movie right around the corner. I would love to see an animated adaptation of the Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong. That would be fantastic. But he praised the team, shouting them out as well. The movie was a monster hit at the box office, as Legendary and Warner Bros. Proudly advertised. It was a great opening weekend for the franchise and shows that there is so much strength in the MonsterVerse moving forward. I'm cutting the video here in half, as I did with the last one, because these interviews, man, they just get too big. Sometimes I get a Wingard interview that's just huge and juicy and amazing, and I gotta separate it in two. Thank you guys all for watching. Especially thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. And if that's not your thing, please consider joining as a channel member. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next time for the next one. D-Man out.